This week on Africa Weekly, we head to Mozambique, where one of the world's largest liquefied natural gas projects has fallen behind, and with it, hopes for the country's prosperous future. Then we head to Kenya's hot, dry and lawless north, where fishermen living on Lake Turkana are having to arm themselves in order to protect themselves and their way of life. And finally, we end in Senegal, where women are pooling their money in order to help one another fund business projects. But first, here's a summary of the stories that have made the headlines this week. Boko Haram's leader, Abubakar Shekau, was injured and one of his deputies killed in an airstrike in northeast Nigeria. According to Boko Haram, Shekau was wounded in the bombings by the Nigerian Air Force and was receiving treatment near the Nigerian border with Cameroon. The authorities have previously claimed to have killed him on at least 3 occasions. Boko Haram has killed over 20,000 people since it took up arms against the Nigerian government in 2009 to establish a hardline Islamist state. South Africa's newly appointed Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba, spoke at the World Economic Forum on Africa. The country's been blighted recently by mass protests calling for President Zuma to step down after he sacked former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, widely seen as a bulwark against government corruption.
There's no hope for us in 2019.
Thousands of Egyptian Catholics waved the colours of the Vatican flag in a Cairo stadium as Pope Francis led Mass. The 80-year-old pontiff's visit was a show of solidarity with the country's Christian minority following a series of deadly church bombings. Egypt's Catholic community is estimated at just under 300,000 in the Muslim-majority country. Almost 5,000 people gathered in Ouagadougou for the first major opposition rally since Roch Marc Christian Kabore came to power in December 2015. Burkina's opposition's formed of around 30 different groups and is headed up by Zéphrin Diabré. For years, he opposed the country's leader, Blaise Compaoré, who was forced to leave power after 27 years in October 2014. Around 200 demonstrators were dispersed by police during May Day protests in the Gabonese capital Libreville. The protests were against human rights violations and the imprisonment of people without trial. The country's battled against growing instability following the contested re-election of leader Ali Bongo 7 months ago. A new festival in Goma, in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, took place to help encourage young people to express themselves through dance. With few options for creative expression in the DRC and little support to help nurture young talent, it's hoped this festival will open new gateways for the country's young dancers.
These stretches of golden beach in Palma in Mozambique could soon give way to a thriving concrete jungle. Since vast gas reserves were discovered offshore in 2010, the country has dreamed of becoming an African Qatar. And impoverished local fishermen are waiting impatiently for development.
Thanks to this project, we're about to take off. We'll have jobs. Because there are no jobs here, we're dependent on the sea. And with the start of the project, I think lots of young people will get jobs.
Electricity, a new paved road, a bank, hotels and restaurants. But the gas project itself has fallen behind. Hit by a collapse in gas prices, multinational explorers have repeatedly postponed investments. Meanwhile, anxious villagers have finally accepted a deal to be rehoused a few miles away.
Just look at the size of our coconut, mango and cashew trees. We grow beans here. We grow all different types of food. But we don't know if we will still be able to do that there.
A massive debt scandal has also undermined the project. Anticipating a gas bonanza, the government borrowed $2 billion in secret loans. But when the IMF found out, it suspended budgetary support for the cash-strapped country.
It will be a long time until Mozambique can see the fruit of gas extraction, because the government will first have to use the revenues to pay down its past debts.
When the discovery was first made, it was estimated that the liquefied natural gas would be ready for export by 2016. The new best-case scenario is 2022, not a moment too soon for the 50% of Mozambicans who live beneath the poverty line.
Armed and ready to fight, but these are not militants, they are fishermen. In the north of Kenya, on Lake Turkana, traditional rivalries have intensified in the battle for increasingly scarce resources.
We don't negotiate. You meet with the Marie and you exchange fire. If he's fortunate, he escapes, and if we're fortunate, we escape. That's the only language we speak.
In the past, a good catch could see nets overflow. But the fishermen say, not anymore. The reason, according to experts, is the giant Gebe 3 Dam, 600 kilometers away upriver in Ethiopia.
If you stop that seasonal flooding because you are controlling the flooding, then that means the stimulus effect, which makes the fish start maturing before it moves upstream and then breeds and comes back, will be lost. So we'll have collapsed in the breeding cycle.
The fishermen believe the Kenyan government is neglecting their fate and is more interested in importing electricity from the dam. Meanwhile, the fight between Kenya's Turkana and the neighboring Dasanek people, who live on both sides of the Kenya-Ethiopia border, has become increasingly deadly.
Nothing good comes out of this lake, it's only death. Their fishing nets meet with ours in the delta. They cast their nets from one side while we do the same from the other. The strong night tides push the nets and they end up mixing in the lake, so fetching our nets becomes a problem, leading to clashes.
Recently, Turkana and Dasanek leaders have come together for peace talks. They have been spurred on by fears that Ethiopian plans for sugarcane and cotton plantations could divert the water and drain the lake. As one fisherman said, if there's no water, there'll be nothing left to fight for.
This poultry farmer on the outskirts of the Senegalese capital, Dakar, has revived her struggling venture with the help of a special kind of credit.
I bought the chicks for breeding with money from the tontine. At the bank you pay interest, but with the tontine there's no interest at all.
Popular in many parts of Africa, women often club together in what's called a tontine to save money. Members of this group pay in the equivalent of around €3 every week. And once every 5 years, it's your turn to take home the €750 jackpot.
The bank needs a lot of papers and everything, and guarantees. But we know each other, we live in the same neighbourhood, and we know everyone.
In the past, tontines were used to save for special events like weddings or baptisms. But now many women say they're more ambitious. Hairdresser Ndeye, who contributes to 4 tontines, has used the cash to build a house.
I can only count on the tontine. I can't get money from the bank.
There is a system of small fines to encourage regular payments into the pot, but sanctions are mostly social.
As villagers, we wouldn't dare burn up the money from the tontines without contributing. You'd get an earful. Even your grandkids would hear about it.
These women say it's about more than an interest-free lump sum. By giving a sense of community, purpose, control and achievement, the tontine itself hits the jackpot.
Tunisia's new football coach, Nabil Malou, says he hopes his team will qualify for the 2018 World Cup, which will be the first time they've taken part in the competition since 2006. His first priority at the moment, however, is a win on the 11th of June, when his team take on Egypt in a match that could lead the way into the Africa Cup of Nations in 2019. Next week on Africa Weekly, we head to Benin City in Nigeria, where many people are living off the earnings of family members working in Europe. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.